TLO, what's poppin'? We are on Twitch. We are not live, but you can leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on your post notification bells. Let's continue to grow the family from Chicago to the UK. What's this behind me? Oh, that's the TheeLitOne live. If you do happen to go, if I do go live and you happen to miss it, highlights from the live will be on this page. Link in the description. We do got the Discord as well. Link in the description is for that as well. And the Patreon. That's, you know, where we react to stuff we can't on YouTube. It's a list of all this, the good stuff over here. We just watched This Is England 88. We just started season 2. It's bussin'. Now, Rose Kemp documentary, Hatton Garden, the inside story. First of all, hit the like button, because I practice what I preach. Let's get into this, man. Y'all know I like Rose. We on that. Let's go.
We thought struck.
No previews. Let's just go to it.
This film now catch the thieves. This film now reveals the extraordinary details of the police operation to catch the thieves.
The first real breakthrough moment, eureka moment.
To one of the
where's the start?
biggest robbery in history. Before electronic.
That he had.
This from there.
It's funny, I never heard about this story, and I never seen Rose Kemp in this type of format. I didn't even know he did different type of documentaries. I'm here for it.
On the morning after the Easter Bank holiday weekend of 2015, the world's most famous jewellery quarter, Hatton Garden, was waking up for business, unaware that some of its most precious goods had just been stolen by a gang of organised thieves.
This is in 2015? I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I ain't know people were still robbing banks and jewelry stores in this day and age. Because you don't hear about it much in America, at least. Or maybe I just don't. There's no, like, influential bank robbers. Like, that's a dead breed, right? You know how, like, they have famous bank robbers and famous jewelry stores? Like, they don't have that anymore here. I don't think. Anyway, let's get into it.
Bring you some breaking news that's just reaching us here.
£100 million worth of cash and jewels is estimated to have been stolen in a heist at a London vault.
The vault was used mainly by traders to store their diamonds, gold and jewellery. Just after 8
Sound like an inside job.
a.m, police were called to investigate a break-in at the Hatton Garden safe deposit. Immediately, the case was handed over to the flying squad, a unit my father served in when I was a kid. This would prove to be one of their greatest tests against some of their oldest adversaries. Detective Sergeant Jamie Day is part of the elite team that has now decided to tell the full inside story of their investigation.
What did you think when you first arrived?
What year was this shot? This is the 2009. Does Rose Kemp age? He looked the same. He might be look younger. I ain't even gonna hold you.
On the scene.
I can see the devastation as you come through here. Dust everywhere. This whole corridor was full of tools, water pipes, hoses, absolute devastation in here.
What are you thinking at this point? Do you have any idea just how big a robbery this is?
The fact that we've been called, I know this is sophisticated and it's numerous people and this is organised.
100 million, it gotta be organised.
By the front door, numerous keys available for that. Everybody in this building has access to that door.
The source of the key has yet to be identified. Once inside the building, they used an ingenious way to get into the vault.
Front door, told you. Inside.
They climbed down the shaft of the customer lift.
This lift drops you into the vault itself, right in the heart of it, but then they're confronted with this shutter which is bolted to the floor. Right. And that's where they essentially forced this shutter up.
That was the shutter? You talking about the same shutter that they used to close off the corner store? To stop burglars from getting in the corner store? That ain't it. What that gonna do?
Now they had just 60 seconds to disable the alarm.
The sophistication of what they've done, even alarm engineers were stumped as to how have they achieved it.
With the alarm deactivated,
Hired an alarm engineer.
the gang set to work drilling their way towards the millions inside the vault.
My bad, it's loud.
So this is the main vault door.
Couldn't get through that.
Couldn't get through that, didn't even attempt to my knowledge. And this is the hole that they've broken into. This room is floor-to-ceiling security boxes, 999 boxes.
Do you think they targeted certain boxes?
No, I don't. If you went round this room, these boxes are very, very unlikely to be opened.
They showed no prejudice. They grabbed as much as they could. What? Come on, chill. Okay, my bad.
These boxes not really targeted. This is the working height that they were at throughout this area. They only managed to get in the region of 70 boxes open.
And there's 999.
70 boxes and totaled 100 million?
Police would later discover that it had taken the gang more than one night to enter the vault over that Easter weekend. This had caused the gang to split up, and the errors they made after that split would lead to their arrests. One mistake nearly got them caught on the first night they went in. They disarmed the alarm, but it still sent a message to the monitoring company that it had been triggered. A security guard came, saw nothing, and a false alarm was reported.
And I guarantee you that security guard got fired. That boy is no longer with the company. You ain't even go to the front door. You probably pulled up, looked like, all right, nothing.
The police
100 million.
show up. After the burglary was discovered, local businesses were angry when the error was revealed.
I cannot believe that they couldn't actually
Zero.
go into the premises and investigated it properly.
The police were forced to apologise,
Oh,
blaming
yeah.
a breakdown in communications at their end.
It wasn't a breakdown in communication. That's the hoopla that you tell the media. What happened was somebody was lazy. It was a breakdown in their legs. They didn't want to get up out that car. They was, man, it's cold. It's Easter and I'm working. I'm mad. Oh, man, it's good.
The systems and processes that we have in place weren't followed. And as a result of that, officers did not attend the premises when in fact they probably should have done. And for that, I want to apologise.
Did they get fired?
The flying squad were now under extreme pressure to catch the culprits. Worse still, forensic analysis of the crime scene proved fruitless.
There was lots of bleach bottles at the scene.
Yeah, duh.
Bleach deteriorates DNA and the forensics.
The thieves had also taken the hard drives of the vault security cameras, so there were no pictures of them.
They'd wiped the tracks pretty well, which obviously really informed us that who we were looking at were organised, and that they were forensically aware.
Speculation raged in the
Did they climb through here? That don't even look that big. I know I ain't getting through there.
press about who was responsible for the heist.
Some skinny people.
I mean, initially it was, is it the Pink Panthers who've come in from Eastern Europe to do it? Or, you know, ex-soldiers? Or, I mean, there was very entertaining speculation.
It seemed to be sophisticated and well planned, from actually gaining entry into the premises to actually drilling the hole.
Hey, shout out to the first responders too. I know y'all in here watching the premiere. I appreciate that. This month, next month, a lot of re-uploads. I'm not gonna put re-upload in the video because for what? I'm just, they're on a hard drive. I'm just uploading them and leaving them. I'm not touching them at all. Who's gonna go through 2,000 videos and put re-upload? Never.
The burglars' timing of the heist gave the police even more problems. Breaking in over the bank holiday weekend gave the burglars a head start and put the police on the back foot. giving the gang even more time to dispose of the stolen goods.
I would have relocated.
The gold, the diamonds and the jewels would have gone out to a specific market. So we were really mindful that this was a race against time. And that was where the real pressure was.
However, early on, detectives did make their first breakthrough.
All CCTV.
Why not melt it down and... this is... I think I heard like another like crime thing, and they melted it down, which made it virtually untraceable, all the gold. And then they think they just sold the diamonds. I don't know. But the gold, as far as the gold and the precious metals, they just melted them down.
Each premises was visited. Every street, from Hatton Garden, Hatton Wall, Greville Street, Leather Lane, there were 20 or 30 people that were dealing with that.
Now detectives could finally get a look at the thieves and start building a picture of how the burglary happened. A white van arrives at about 8:20 p.m. on the Thursday night at the start of the Easter bank holiday. Minutes later, two men are seen walking towards Hatton Garden. They are followed by another man carrying a bag on his shoulder.
He was incredibly savvy when it comes to surveillance.
Carry his face.
So he
Covered
knows
his
there are
face.
cameras up there. He's got it on the same side, hasn't he?
Absolutely. And you'll see here, he sort of just slows down a little bit, and you'll see he goes to his left pocket,
Yeah. And that's the
holds
key.
there. I'd suggest that's him taking the key out.
So he goes in, he goes down the stairs, and he goes to the back of the property, he opens the door, and he lets the rest of the gang in.
Yeah.
While detectives were scouring the CCTV for clues, they suffered yet another setback.
New CCTV footage appearing to show the gang of burglars pulling off the jewellery robbery in Hatton Garden has emerged.
An obvious part of our job, if we get sent down to the crime scene, part of a journalist's job is to try to get pictures. Hatton Garden had a very high density of CCTV cameras for obvious reasons, so we did get images of the gang. And it was a very powerful front page.
Once that photograph's out there, they know how they've been captured, they know what they were wearing. That's suddenly something that we could recover, but they are now probably going to get rid of that item. The pressure was there, the number of victims that you're working for and what you're trying to achieve is high, but we picked up speed very, very quickly.
Detectives now focus on the van used by the burglars.
That's got to have had a number plate.
We knew the number plate for that van very quickly. We know a name of the person who bought it. It's not a genuine name, it was purchased for this job.
Sure.
The last time it was seen on those index plates or registration plates was up near Enfield after the job. At that point, it would have been disposed of.
Yeah, off the face of the earth.
The van was a dead end, but the CCTV revealed
smart as they
something
was.
curious. When the gang came out of the vault at around 8 a.m. on Good Friday, they didn't appear to be carrying bags full of loot.
And obviously the question was, did something go wrong? And obviously it had done. We were not sure at the initial stages what had gone wrong, but that was a real chink in their armour.
The CCTV then shows the gang return on the Saturday night, apparently for a second attempt. The following morning, it appeared that this time they'd been successful.
Like, they didn't just have somebody going around there doing rounds just in case? Like a security guard just in case? Like one security guard just checking every day?
But when
I bet you they do now. But
studying the footage around an hour before the second break-in, detectives discovered something that would open up the entire investigation.
We identified these two people on foot, one of which is wearing a reflective jacket, walk round to the front 88 to 90 Hatton Garden.
These two characters look remarkably similar to the ones that were there the night before.
Yeah.
A minute later, the men returned. They then walked up the street behind the vault, where they got into a distinctive vehicle.
The vehicle is a white Mercedes with a black roof, with black wheels,
So how crucial to your investigation is the fact that you
tweaked? They tweaked. If you're not going there on business, then don't come back until it's business time. They tweaked. In the outfits?
can connect those two suspects with that very distinctive Mercedes.
That was the starting point for us. That's the first breakthrough that opens a world of opportunity for us, and that became the number one priority for us in this investigation at that time.
Detectives accessed automatic number plate recognition to track the Mercedes as it drove away from the crime scene. After leaving Hatton Garden on the Saturday evening, the Mercedes was caught on camera on the Clerkenwell Road at around 9:30. Minutes later, it was caught on CCTV in Islington.
You looked at AMPR and you worked out its route. And where did it lead you?
To the North London area, N1 postcode. We actually get a hit in a residential street and we deploy to that area and find the car.
What happens then? What do you do now?
So this is the time when we step towards a surveillance capability to establish who's using that.
One little slip up. Y'all was smart the whole time. One little slip up.
That vehicle. And it's not long before we see a lone male, elderly male, regularly using that vehicle. That's John Kenny Collins.
The first member of the gang to be identified couldn't have been further from the press's image of a Serbian gangster.
So am I right with you, man? Am I right?
He was in fact a 74-year-old grandfather who had lived in West London all his life, not 2 miles from the vault.
You think they'd have a better security?
The vault.
Kenny Collins, Hatton Garden burglar.
You think they'd have a better security? It was a piss-hole place anyway. Could have all stuck it up themselves.
I'm a little confused. Like, why? How is he? This happened in 2009. This happened in 2015. This was released in 2019. So did he take a plea deal or something?
3 days after the Hatton Garden burglary was discovered, the flying squad had its first major breakthrough. They traced the distinctive vehicle from the crime scene to a John Kenny Collins, here giving his first television interview after leaving prison.
It's a living. Being a criminal is a living, isn't it? It's what you do for a living. Like you feel, it's what you do.
So you get the name Collins, you look at his criminal record, and what does that tell you?
It tells us that he's got a significant number of years in prison for serious offences, organised crime.
Collins had been a face in the London underworld since the 1960s. Detectives checked the CCTV to find out what part he played in the burglary.
So that's the van parks up, and that's Collins. He goes into 25 Hatton Garden across the way. From that position, he can see the front door in Hatton Garden and that fire escape side door.
Here's the lookout.
They wanted me to be the lookout and drive the van.
Collins is then seen leaving his lookout post on the Good Friday morning when the gang come out empty-handed. They now had Collins, his car, his home address, and CCTV footage of him leaving his lookout post across from the vault. They now put a surveillance team on him to see if he would lead them to other members of the gang.
And of course they did. He did. All from a little mistake.
Detectives now had to
I ain't gonna lie, that's good detective work. I can't even hold you. Hey, that's meticulous.
Identify every person Collins met. 10 days after the burglary was discovered, police observed him meeting a man just half a mile from Hatton Garden. His identity changed the whole complexion of the investigation.
Did you automatically then think this was a possible suspect?
At the time of the meeting, no, it just looked like some people meeting outside a cafe.
Detectives got his name from Collins' telephone records. It's Brian Reeder.
Brian Reed, who is that?
I met him in prison. I knew of him, but I didn't meet him till he got the bird. When he got the bird for the gold.
Wait, when he got what?
Him, but I didn't meet him till he got the bird. When he got the bird for the gold.
Reeder was a long-time adversary of the flying squad. In 1983, he was involved in the £26 million Brinks Mat robbery. He was accused but found not guilty of the murder of DC John Fordham, who'd been stabbed to death by an associate of Reeder's.
Detective Constable Fordham was found lying on the ground 8 yards from the gate, dying from 10 stab wounds. The prosecution said Reeder was stood next to the body.
I think once it was established that that was his...
I always tell you, man, when we watch those prison documentaries, some of them prisoners be going there and they be just clicking up. You know what I'm saying? Building teams, getting advice, you know what I'm saying? Getting better.
Name. There were people in the office who were...
Those type of criminals, like robbers. And
were old enough to remember what had happened, some firsthand.
Studying the CCTV footage of both break-ins, detectives were surprised to see no sign of Reeder on the second night. The explanation was to be found amongst the debris of the crime scene.
There was a pump on the floor. It looked like their plan was to take an acro, something that would hold up a ceiling if you're having some work or knocking a wall down at home.
As you pump it, it expands, right?
Yeah, they put it across this room.
Through onto the other side, which is the back of the safety deposit box.
Yeah. The idea is to pump that box that's there, push it over, and over it goes, giving them access.
But the pump was damaged.
Yeah,
the cabinets holding the safe deposit boxes turned out to be bolted to the ceiling and floor. Their plan had failed.
Brian said that the thing would be freestanding. When we get it, it's bolted to the wall. That's when they stopped. They couldn't move, couldn't shift it, so they come out that day. That's when Brian decided not to go back. But you don't just pull out because it suits you. I'm not going back. What about us? What about us?
Reeder was convinced that as soon as they went off plan, that's when mistakes would be made.
And he was right. Y'all went off plan. Mistakes were made.
But the others would.
That's what I was just about to say, man. If y'all don't get it done the first day, it's like it's over with pretty much. Like, people's mind is not as much into it. That same amount, the level of adrenaline is gone after the first day. You know?
I spent, I think, maybe 3 years on it. And also, I've laid out a lot of money. I've done my money, all the equipment, you know what I mean? Common sense said we've got to go back and give it another half hour. We've got to try and force these bolts. But he pulled out of it. Maybe if he didn't, none of us have got nicked.
Him talking about it is crazy to me.
3 weeks after the burglary, detectives were still tailing Collins. They believed there was still a chance the loot could be recovered. But they needed a fresh lead, so they decided to appeal to the public. Police offered a £20,000 reward.
Wasn't T.I. on there or something?
For information.
We want to talk to members of the public that may have been in the Hatton Garden area, that may have seen anything suspicious. They may have seen that the loading or unloading of any heavy equipment.
But some were not taking the robbery seriously.
Detectives now investigating the incredible Hatton Garden jewellery heist are now appealing to any wives or girlfriends out there of men with, wait for it, specialist drill knowledge. Would you dub them up? Would you give them in?
I wouldn't. Well, no, that's... Sorry, I didn't say that out loud.
Keep it real. Keep it real, shorty.
I know.
You said it.
I know. It is. We shouldn't laugh, but...
I think there was a certain amount of sneaking sympathy for them. I think the main reason was the age of the protagonists, these old boys in their 70s still trying to carry out the perfect crime, and the fact nobody was injured, and also that, rightly or wrongly, people don't have an enormous amount of sympathy for people with safe deposit boxes.
There are people, obviously, who probably aren't insured, have lost everything.
I knew several people who suffered very badly, and we haven't really seen them back in Hatton Garden again.
They go out of business?
They went out of business, yeah.
These were callous career criminals, yeah, they did not care. But you can't underestimate the impact that this has had on some very small businesses. And some of those lives have been absolutely smashed, some of their pensions have been completely lost.
The public provided no useful clues after the appeal. Now police had to rely on their surveillance to prevent the loot from disappearing.
That sucks. That's why you don't put all your money in one spot, man. You gotta invest, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, because at the end of the day, it only insure up to a certain amount of money. Then after that, hey, we told y'all we can't cover you after this amount of money, so...
On the 24th of April, Collins was followed to a pub in North London. There he met Terence Perkins and Daniel Jones, who would later split the gang apart.
Jones is younger than the two other suspects that you have.
He's mid to late 50s, but he's more physically able. He's a career criminal as well. He doesn't have a day job by any stretch.
Jones, he's a keep fit fanatic. He makes out he was in the army. I'm in the army, I've been in the army, and he would go in an army training camp. He lives in a world of his own.
Perkins was a very different category of criminal. He was respected in the underworld for his role in the infamous Security Express robbery of 1983.
Britain's biggest ever cash robbery. They doused a vault guard with petrol and threatened to burn him alive unless they were given the keys.
He instantly gave them keys. Hey, I was gonna say, this is a volatile mix of people. Y'all was about doomed from the start. All these old dogs, like older gentlemen, like dogs, like big dogs in the game, but older gentlemen who are set in their ways and are not willing to bend, and who always think they right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough to do a job with some people like that, I would assume.
I didn't know Terry before he got his 22 years for the £7 million cash robbery. Terry was his own man. He's entirely different. I like Terry.
The police had now identified 4 potential members of the gang, and all of them were under surveillance. A phone call from Collins' house on the Saturday afternoon before the second break-in revealed how the gang had gained entry to the vault.
Talking too much.
When we conducted surveillance on Collins, there was a call made to D&M Tools down in Twickenham.
What's he after?
He's trying to source a pump, a hydraulic pump.
They left a broken pump behind, did they not?
That's right, they did, yeah. And we thought, well, maybe they've gone to source equipment.
Collins and Jones then drove down there in the white Mercedes on the Saturday afternoon.
Daniel Jones goes in, comes back out, and then goes next door to where the purchase is made.
Jones goes in, lets him take his photo, and gives him his name and address. His name and address. And his photo, a good photo, he's not muffled up or anything, you know what I mean? That's him.
That was dumb.
That night, the gang returned with a new pump.
Just like the first dude said. Hey, if we gotta go back, more mistakes will be made, and it's number 2.
With no sign
3.
of Reader, there were now 5 left. Collins, Perkins, Jones, and 2 others the police had yet to identify. The second attempt was a success. The new pump had enough power to snap the bolts and push the steel units away from the wall. The millions of pounds worth of gold, diamonds and jewellery were now within reach. Nearly a month after the burglary, detectives still didn't have enough evidence to connect the men to the crime. Until one Friday night, when Collins and Perkins met Brian Reader for a drink at the castle, accompanied by a surveillance officer with a hidden camera. The officer had to get within a few feet of the gang to film this footage. So who have we got here?
That's Kenny Collins on the left, Terence Perkins in the middle, and the side profile of Brian sat at the table.
Reader walked away, didn't he?
He did, yes.
So why is he meeting up with him?
I imagine he wanted to know how the second night went.
Is he looking for a cut?
Yeah, he is. There's a lot of planning that goes in, you know, years of planning to put that job together.
The risk paid off when Perkins demonstrated how they used the new pump.
So he's actually telling Brian Reader how they forced their way into the actual safe deposit box room.
Yeah.
How did you know what they were talking about?
So this was provided to an expert.
Them boys got button-ups, cardigans. You know what I'm saying? I would not be surprised if the other two guys was Pete and Boss. I wouldn't be surprised. The older rappers, Pete and Boss, I would not be surprised.
Specialised in lip reading. And they gave us a transcript as to how that conversation unfolded. It was directly to do with the burglary and the events of that second night.
So where would you place this in terms of a breakthrough in your investigation?
If you look at the white Mercedes being the first breakthrough, then this is the real second significant breakthrough.
With this new evidence, detectives were able to get the extremely rare authorized.
Why not meet at the house or something? They probably thought nobody was on to them thus far. But the media had all them pictures and whatnot. They had to know something was up.
Station to bug
A
Collins
month later.
and Perkins' vehicles.
I think they nicked a set of keys of mine from a pub I was in. I lost a set of keys. I think the old Bill nicked it. I went in and bugged it, Carl.
The bugs allow detectives to eavesdrop on their conversations. This is the first time the burglar's words have been heard outside a courtroom.
Yeah, the biggest robbery in the fucking world, Dan.
The recordings show the tensions that were starting to pull the gang apart. They also confirm the reason Brian Reader walked off, soon to be followed by another member of the gang.
He's becoming an old ponce now, Brian. He is an old ponce. And Kenny is a soppy old...
Hey, they using that old school slang, ain't they? I ain't even know. I was trying to put the pieces together in my head what they was talking about. I'm like, a soppy old... Soppy. Okay, not solid. Soppy. I didn't know what was going on. It's tough.
A month after the Hatton Garden heist, the flying squad planted bugs in the cars of the two burglars, Collins and Perkins. Now, they could identify the last two members of the gang. On the 15th of May, detectives pick up on a name they haven't heard before.
Pete.
Brian thought we'd never get in.
Brian.
And Carl's arsehole went. Carl's arsehole went. He must be cursing himself. Who? That Carl. He must be thinking of committing suicide.
So who's Carl?
Carl is Carl Wood.
Did Carl Wood have a criminal history?
Yeah, Carl Wood had his inquisitive crime, theft, burglary, you know. Not a nice character.
The bugs revealed that Brian Reader, the mastermind, wasn't the only one to walk off the job. When the gang returned for the second break-in, Carl Wood was unnerved by a light that was on inside the building. they had to wait for Collins, their lookout, to give them the all clear.
I'm across the road, I'm watching the light on. I wait till the man leaves, I see the light go off, see him come down, come out the door. I said, right, the geezer's left. But by then, Woods had gone home, and he changed his mind and gone home. He went, I'm going. He went.
The gang were now 2 men down.
They should have had twice as many people inside that vault breaking them boxes open than they did. And that became the argument between the group.
They would have had twice as much money as the logic, right?
The bugs revealed that the gang thought that Reader and Wood had committed a cardinal sin by walking off the job, and Reader, as the leader, carried most of the blame.
The biggest robbery in history, that's what they're saying. And Brian walking away.
That's it. And he thinks he's the gov.
I'll tell you what he lost, shall I? 1.6 million worth of gold he lost, plus 70 grand in notes.
I feel a bit sorry, don't you?
Give it back to him.
Give it back to him.
They wasn't going to give him a penny anyway. I said we'd give him something, but they said he's getting fuck all. And he'd been there about 30 years. But
for the money he had put in for it or something?
There's always a saying there is no loyalty amongst villains, and I think this was a real case.
There's no honor amongst thieves. Craig Turner.
Of that.
Having identified 5 members of the gang, detectives now tried to find out who the 6th man was. The others referred to him as Basil.
They refer to him as Basil. If you take away the IL, what that is? Bass. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. I knew something.
The bugs revealed that it was Basil who had the key to the safe deposit building.
The only one who could get Nick was poor old Basil on the key bit. You know what I mean?
They talk like they 92.
The recordings also confirmed that Basil was the electronics expert.
I still don't know why Basil let the alarm go off.
You know what Basil's gonna say, yeah?
Oh, I don't know enough to challenge him, you know what I mean? He can baffle me with bullshit.
I used to call him the boffin.
After 6 weeks, detectives couldn't find out any more about the identity of the mysterious 6th man, Basil. He was never picked up on the bug.
Rose, you know, me and you get along very well. I like you. When you say 6th, why do you say Sith? Hold on.
Identity of the mysterious 6th man.
Sith man. I'm lost.
Basil. He was never picked up on the bugs, and he appeared to have ceased all contact with the gang. This footage from the break-in was all they had.
The X not silent.
This is probably the closest full profile picture of Basil.
It's impossible to ID him, isn't it?
It is. What we can see is the back of his hair, the collar line of the ginger hair. That doesn't look right. That's not his hair.
He's wearing a wig.
Exactly.
Smart.
After the heist, Basil disappeared, and his identity would remain a mystery for the next 3 years. Detectives now concentrated on trying to recover the loot before it disappeared for good. Crucially, what the bugs also revealed was that the change of plan caused by the broken pump had a knock-on effect on the division of the loot.
We drove it to my house, took the 2 dustbins out, put them in my place.
So why didn't you cut it up there and then?
Didn't have time.
What was the rush?
I had to clear the house out. She's coming back on bank holiday. She's only gone away for the bank holiday. I wanted the house empty before she didn't know nothing about it.
Colin's wife was due home the next day, so the gang had to hide the spoils elsewhere until they could find a place to divide them up.
Jonesy took all the diamonds, I took all the tool. I gave mine to Bill Lincoln, brother-in-law. He happened to come round. He didn't know nothing about it. I said, take that, put that down for me. He was going away for 2 weeks holiday the next day. I thought he'd put it in his house. But he went and give it to someone else. Oh, you can imagine.
Jones had to hide the jewels until they could divide them up. He buried them in Edmonton Cemetery. Police now discovered that he and Perkins planned to double-cross the others.
Stones? Where'd you put them? With them or over the cemetery? Nah, leave them over the cemetery. We'll have them. We'll say it's our bit.
But their greed didn't hide their fears when they heard Collins had involved his brother-in-law, Bill Lincoln.
How the fuck has that Bill got involved? I said to Brian, Bill has wound up with a fucking gear. He said, not Bill. He's giving it to someone else to look after. You gotta treat
Who did Bill give it to, first of all?
everyone as an enemy. You fucking have, Dan. You can't let money out of your fucking sight. It was all cash.
See what money do to you? They came in as a 3-year team. Instantly. That's karma, though. Robbing them hard-working people.
Detectives now knew that the goods were hidden in different places until the crooks could divide them up.
It was now a case of waiting as long as possible, because the more likely it is we're going to see that stolen property come back into the team.
We didn't want to find a small amount, we wanted to find a significant amount. As many people are together as possible, as much property is together as possible.
Then 6 weeks after the heist, detectives finally got their chance.
I paid for my daughter's holiday. Not all I wanted to give them, but let's see what we got once we chop it up and we'll have half a clue. You can't plan on doing anything until you know what you got, can you?
Perkins had sent his daughter away so they could use her house to do the carve-up, otherwise known as the slaughter. A conversation in Collins' car revealed where and when the hidden goods would be divided.
And that was the moment.
Yeah, he's the one who's going to bring it out.
That's the time where we thought, right, this is it, and the decision's made.
I'm curious. In 2015, the car was bugged. The car was bugged. Okay.
This is the time to strike.
Over 100 officers...
No, he said a phone call, right? Like, why are they talking on the phone about this, though? Like, it's 2015. They bugging phones in 2015. That was only 8 years ago.
Drafted in, ready to raid the homes and workplaces of every suspected associate of the Hatton Garden gang.
We've got an awful lot of resources ready because we were going to follow William Lincoln, Collins, Jones, Perkins, and we wanted to see them all come together.
Is there an element of sort of fear or trepidation that it could go wrong?
Yeah, you worry that things don't go the way you envisage they're going to go. What if you can't be sure that they've got those holdalls of gold and jewels? What if you lose them in the surveillance or people get away? There's a real mix of emotions.
The bulk of the goods stolen from Hatton Garden were moved from a taxi into Collins' Mercedes, right here under that CCTV camera. At 9:40.
So I'm telling y'all, man, in the UK, you ain't no crime going unsolved, really. You know what I'm saying? It's too much eyes.
5 on the 19th of May, surveillance officers watched the hidden goods being handed over behind a pub in Enfield.
Their bags, those bags being moved, that's the loot, yeah?
Yeah, so they're the holdalls, and this is a fair portion of what's been stolen coming back into London.
Collins and Jones were then followed to Perkins' daughter's house where the slaughter would take place. Reader and Wood had been left out, and Basil had not been seen since the burglary.
Little do y'all know, Basil, he got a successful rap career. You know what I'm saying?
This footage reveals the scale of the police operation.
Damn.
I mean, they swooped and caught 3 of us there.
It's 100 police.
Jonesy got out the garden. I went to go with him, but they flattened me. If Basil would have been there for the cut-up, he'd have been nicked then, wouldn't he? Basil weren't nowhere. We never had nothing to do with Basil anyway.
At the same time, the property of every associate of the gang was raided.
The men arrested in today's raids, average age 6,
was raided.
The men...
Typical British sky. Am I right? Right, that's what y'all told me.
Men arrested in today's raids, average age 60, are still being questioned.
I'm very pleased to say that this morning 12 addresses have been raided across London. As a result, a significant amount of high-value property has been recovered.
That's good, then. They got them businesses
In the home
back
searches that followed the arrests, police recovered gold, diamonds and jewellery worth about 1/3 of the estimated £14 million that was stolen.
It was a major success for Scotland Yard, but one of the gang slipped through the net, the mysterious Basil.
For 3 years, y'all might as well let him.
Your role, wasn't it, was to be the driver and the lookout?
No comment.
Were you a driller?
No comment.
What went wrong? Was it you that messed up?
No comment.
After only 6 weeks, police had rounded up 5 of the 6 Hatton Garden burglars. The evidence against them included millions of pounds worth of gold and jewellery, and even an instruction manual.
All the tapes in the car buried them, you know what I mean? And they picked us up, picking the gear up. We had no chance. We had all the loot.
Reader, Collins, Perkins and Jones all pleaded guilty, thus avoiding a trial and reducing their sentences from the mandatory 10 years. Reader got 6 years, 3 months, while the others got 7 years each. Wood and Lincoln were given 6 and 7 years, respectively. But what of Basil? What had become of the man they called the Ghost? Now, for the first time, the flying squad revealed the details of his capture.
Oh, y'all did catch him?
They began by reviewing all their surveillance material to see if they could spot anyone that looked like him. In the days after Kenny Collins was identified, police watched him meet with many people. Some were involved in the robbery, others were not. Each one was identified and discounted. One individual could not be eliminated.
On the 17th of April, he met a male in Shoreditch Park. And then on the 24th, he met the same male again. And this time we said, let's get some imagery of this person.
My understanding of body language, they know each other, they're sharing a joke. They're not two people that have met by coincidence.
That person, it was a person of interest who we can't eliminate from our inquiry, but that doesn't escalate them to Basil.
The next time Collins met that
gotta do y'all due diligence.
Individual, undercover officers followed him to the northern end of Liverpool Road in North London.
There's CCTV in the area, and you're able to sort of box off an area of interest,
Gives you an area where he could possibly be living.
Hopefully, yes, so quite a slow process. And then some research about who's there, the people that are there, and you start ticking off your list. We eventually had an address, and from the address, we have a name.
At the end of 2015, detectives finally identified the man in the park as Michael John Seed, the son of a Cambridge academic. Seed lived off the grid, with no job, No visible means of income, and no phone.
His approach to telephones and telephoning was really disciplined. He didn't talk to any of the other conspirators. Everything was cash with him, no access to a vehicle. You know, these are all investigative techniques that we used on the rest of the team that weren't available to us for him.
You know what I'm saying? Smart, he was smart about it.
Police watched Seed for a whole 2 years. They realised that, like Basil, he was skilled in anti-surveillance techniques. Seed and Basil were also of a similar build.
You look at the other people that John Collins meets, they're either too short, too young, too wide.
There were similarities between the two men, but not enough to apply for a search warrant.
Yeah, that's all circumstantial, as they would call it.
Police also noticed something else that Seed and Basil had in common. They both had a particular way of walking.
Oh, slew foot?
Now you look at it, it is slightly distinctive, isn't it?
I'd say you can see an
But how
imperfection.
often did you have to look at it? How often would you stare at that?
Hundreds of hours.
So we've got him walking in Hatton Garden. This is him being filmed under surveillance.
And if you look at this, you can see that throwing of the right leg.
Yeah.
That's forward, and then this is the reverse angle of it, and again you can see that there's...
The leg gets thrown out, doesn't it? Look.
Yeah.
Can't really see
This
it.
very particular similarity finally persuaded detectives to get a search warrant.
Had we have searched his flat and not recovered any stolen property, there was a good chance that we would have bailed him.
After 2 years of waiting, the flying squad decided to take the risk.
At 2 years, he thought he was scot-free, and he got searched and still had stuff. Like as his trophy and something, like tweaking. What are you doing? You gotta get rid of it.
We go through the door as quickly as possible.
So I've heard.
He's surprised we're there. When you look in his bedroom, there's gold smelter, electrical devices, computers, jewellery, and a significant amount. On the workbench were 2 gold bars with their assay numbers on. They were part of stuff stolen from Hatton Garden.
And what did he say? What did he say when you said, well, what's this? Here's a smelter, here's a gold ingot.
No explanation whatsoever. No conversation.
No comment.
Whatsoever.
So what do you use that equipment for, Michael?
Is that person you, Michael?
Oh, he ain't even say no comment.
Around £150,000 worth of gold and jewellery were found in Seed's flat.
There was just such a huge amount of it, so long after the offence had taken place. It was quite clearly a co-conspirator's share. I was confident that Mr. Seed was, in fact, Basil.
Well, okay, now, it's easy to be confident when you walk in and there's $150,000 worth of gold.
On the 15th of March 2019, Michael Seed was convicted for his role in the heist. Because he pleaded not guilty, he was jailed.
Oh man, you pleaded not guilty, they threw the book. They gave you the max, didn't they? You still in there.
For 10 years.
This is not a caper with no victims.
2028.
There are many, many victims. Some businesses were affected badly. People lost heirlooms and will never get those back.
A number of people lost their livelihood. I knew several people who suffered very badly.
The Hatton Garden gang were defeated by a mix of technology, old-fashioned police work, and human error. Despite all their planning,
really human error,
and preparation, they failed to notice that the cabinets were bolted in. This forced them to change their plan and ultimately led to their downfall.
If we'd have gone where we meant to go from when we planned it, we went to Enfield, it would have been cut up at Enfield and it would have all gone different ways. We didn't. End of story.
Right, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Like everything, fucked up after the event.
Dang. Terrence Perkins passed away February 2018. Danny Jones is still in prison. Wait, Danny's still in prison? This was 2000. Okay. Brian Reeder and Kenny Collins both continue fighting proceedings and recover millions under the Proceeds of Crime Act. 2 months after being found guilty, Michael C. has asked for a leave of appeal against his conviction and sentence. How'd that go? Only about a third of the estimated $14 million haul has so far been recovered. The flying squad is still looking for the rest. You might as well give it up. I like this one, Rose. I was fully involved. It was captivating because you was there. Salute. TLO, leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on your post. I'm gone.